Morning, Coach. Do you expect to have Tobias Raymond available Saturday?
No, certainly get the question. We'll put everything in the availability report that I think comes out there on Saturday. So we'll stick with that on injuries going forward.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Shotgun.
Hey, Lincoln. It seems like Elijah Page and Tobias have really meshed well together on that left side, including when you use them to pull. So I was kind of wondering what elements you see when a specific combo of pullers really gets in sync, like on one of the GT plays. And then does that enable you to do anything different as a play caller when you do have two guys that are really meshed together well?
Yeah, no, it definitely matters. It's, no different than, two defensive linemen running a great stun or two receivers, running a combination route and really complementing one another. I think there's just that feel of when you get in sync and you can know what to expect, out of your teammate and somebody whose job heavily impacts your job. And so certainly I think getting in sync, and then too, I just think there's just a trust factor to it. Like I know what this guy's going to do. I trust that he's going to do it well, and I can just go trigger and really do my job at a high level. And so certainly I think some of the continuity, some of these guys having been in the program, the same system here for multiple years. I think you're seeing a lot of that, and yeah, absolutely, it does. You can. I think when you have confidence in that and feel like you can execute things like that well, sure, it does. It makes it tougher to defend, and then therefore opens up other options as well.
All right, Ryan Carchi.
Hey, Lincoln. When it came to Mekhi Lemon, what was it that first really stood out to you about him in the recruiting process? And I wonder when, over the course of the time that you've had him at USC, where you've noticed him take the most strides.
Yeah, I mean, when we first started recruiting him, obviously when I was at Oklahoma, we were recruiting him and Malachi, and yeah, I just remember kind of getting to know him a little bit through recruiting Malachi, just because Mackay was very, very reserved, and but we noticed him watching, Malachi's tape, and you saw, kind of the competitiveness, and I think you saw a lot of kind of what you see today, that he made everything look pretty natural on the field, whether it was offense, whether it was returner, whether it was he was a really good corner at the high school level. And then I remember getting to see him for the first time live, coming out here watching those guys play and being just super impressed with just kind of his competitiveness and physicality and aggressiveness. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that was the kind of the first memories that I have of him. And then I know I've talked some about already. I mean, I think I'm very proud since I've known him, I think end of his freshman year, early sophomore year in high school, just his development from, maturity, the way he handles his business on and off the field. Like the kid has just really grown up a lot. So it's been cool to watch that unfold.
Is it fair to say that you may not have recruited him if not for kind of pursuing Malachi at that point?
I think we would have still recruited him just because we were recruiting this area pretty heavy at the time, and we were aware of him. It wasn't like we're watching Malachi's like, oh, who is this kid? Like we knew who he was. I think that just opened up the communication channels probably a little bit more early on. So I think we still recruited him, but it certainly didn't hurt in building the relationship that there was another kid and another family that we were recruiting and they were, very close.
Jordan.
Hey Lincoln, the back-to-back seasons of starting Big Ten play on the road, and we know last season it was a loss, and I can imagine that it was a gut punch to starting the season, getting conference play going. So I'm curious to know how much does this conference opener set the tone for the rest of Big Ten play?
Well, it's important. I mean, it counts the same as every other Big Ten game, but I mean, yeah, certainly it's important. You want to get off to a good start, just like you do a first game of a season or anything else early on. So yeah, I mean, I think it's important. It's another step. It's winning a first conference road game is great. It doesn't it's not going to win you the whole thing, but yeah, you certainly would love to start that way. So, yeah, we're excited about it and excited to get on the road and play a much improved Purdue team.
I also wanted to ask really quick. I assume that you're hoping in a couple of seasons or next season that you can actually start Big Ten on at home instead of on the road.
But these schedules, I think you kind of learn that it's never going to be perfect, and I think especially now with being in a league that has as many teams as the Big Ten does, there's um, you're going to have some that line up great and some that don't. I mean, at the end of the day, we all got to play the games that are there. If you start on the road, then you're going to have a home game later on. I mean, like there's always positives and negatives. I think it's what you make of it as a football team and try not to judge it too much and just go attack it.
Haley.
Good morning. With Purdue having so many transfers, did that change anything about your preparation process or information gathering, or was it really just the same as any other team?
It's a little different. Just it's I would say the personnel would be a bigger challenge if this was like the very first game of the season, and you didn't have a little bit of tape to watch these guys play. Schematically, they're going to do what they do on all sides, but I think, with that many new guys, you're really trying to study the personnel and who they're featuring and, how these guys are playing individually, how they're playing together. That typically gets a little bit easier as the season goes on, just because you have more tape on somebody. But yeah, this one's unique. I mean, like I said, all the years I'm trying to remember looking back and seeing, like no returning starters on the side of the ball and this many new players. I mean, you're going to see it some more and more, right, as time goes on, especially at places that have coaching changes. But yeah, I mean, I think it's made a little bit more simple that it's game 3 and not game 1.
Nia.
Hi, Coach. Similar to that point, what have you seen from Barry Odom's Purdue team in this first year, and how does his defensive philosophy from his Missouri days concern you at all, if any?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, he's a really good defensive mind, and you can see that in what they're doing. Job that their staff and the players have done here in the first couple weeks of the season. They had a very good defense at UNLV last year. He's had a lot of really productive defenses, and that's kind of been the catalyst for him, moving up in the business and getting some of the opportunities that he's obviously deserved to get and has gotten. So, yeah, they do a really good job, and looks like this group has taken to it quickly. They've got some familiar faces, some guys that have been in this program or in his program or in his system before, and I think that shows up and was smart on their part to bring some of those guys in that maybe all of the system wasn't brand new to them. But yeah, they're executing it at a high level. They've done a good job starting off the season well, 2-0. Again, like I said, I think it's an improved team that when you judge it against last year's group, and they've done some really good things here in the first few weeks.
And just a follow-up question to that, you're undefeated while holding opponents to 20 points or fewer this season. What's been the key to your defensive improvements this season, and how do you keep that momentum going into conference play?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been able to make a lot of big plays defensively. We've been able to create some pressure, some tackles for loss. We've been able to do it without blitzing, which has been, was a big key for us going in. We're excited about some of the progress we've made, but we've also had a few mistakes that to be the defense that we want to be and expect to be that we know we're going to have to continue to clean up as time goes on. So that'll be a big challenge for us here this week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Scott.
There's a question. This might be a little bit too early in the season to ask this, but who are some of the guys that are really standing out for you on the scout team? I know it's only 2 games in, but I mean those are the guys that maybe making an appearance for you here, down the road somewhere.
Yeah, I'd say, defensively, Carlon Jones, Cordova and Jaden Ramos both on the edges. AJ and Matai both at linebacker, although, they're both getting some reps with our other guys as well. The secondary, those guys have really done a nice job. RJ, Castro, James Johnson, that group. That's been fun to watch those guys on a daily basis. We've been impressed with the scout offensive line. We think it's probably the best one that we've had since we've been here. So those young linemen are, really doing some good things over there. Harry Dalton has definitely shown up and had some nice carries the other day in the game. Romero Ison has definitely shown up. So yeah, it's a good group on both sides. That you feel kind of that depth right now in terms of the quality of the scout teams, and it's like you said, it's great currently to get a great look and prepare these guys, but also the development for later on this year and certainly in the future here for SC. Those pieces are really, really important. And so you can see some of the work that we've done on a daily basis, but with how competitive those periods are right now.
Man, just one question on Eric Gentry. Obviously, it speaks for itself what he does, on the football field for you from a physical standpoint. But how vital is he to your defense with the communication part?
He's very important to it. You can tell, obviously, he's one of the guys that has been here that's played a decent amount of snaps, both now in this system and then also just college football in general. He's a great communicator, very intentional, very confident in his communication and his calls. A lot of times, if he makes a mistake, he knows he's made it before, one of us can even get to him. And then I think also too, I mean, he's just really become, kind of the emotional leader, not just defensively, but certainly one of the top guys in terms of the entire team with how vocal he's been, just from a leadership perspective, a discipline perspective. It's cool to see his growth, that he's always had that fire, but now he's really learning how to use it in a very impactful way for this football team. So yeah, his communication is important schematically and within the lines, but it's also really important to this team right now in the locker room and off the field.
Thank you.
Mark?
Hey, Coach. So all off season, we got to hear about how well the defense has been looking during fall camp, summer, spring camp. Were you mildly surprised, pleasantly surprised, you can choose your own descriptive word, of how the offensive started the season? Did you anticipate them being that well-oiled? And I understand the competition, but still, they look pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been excited about how we've played the first few weeks. I mean, it's not perfect, but we've done some good things. I mean, we haven't put a lot of just kind of losing ball out there, and that's probably been the thing I've been most excited about. We haven't had a lot of offensive penalties. We haven't had a lot of busts, missed assignments, a lot of negative yardage plays. And those are normally the things that obviously we know can hold you back even when you're explosive. And so, yeah, I think I've probably been the most excited about that. Like you said, obviously the talent that we're getting ready to face and the challenges are going to get different. But yeah, hard not to be excited about the start. And now we've just got to keep getting better.
Who on that offensive line has really opened your eyes? Like, all right, I got my 7, 8 guys now. That's no longer a concern, even if it was maybe going into the start of the season. Thank you. Thanks in advance.
Yeah. I mean, we've been excited about. I mean, obviously, you've seen the guys that have started, and I think all the guys that have started have played some quality ball for us up to this point. We've been excited about John Ray Reed and how he's come along in camp and early on in the season. We're certainly, going to need him one way or another. Kalen Miller, I think, continues to impress. Treater, I think, has been a really kind of nice surprise. I know we kind of talked about him a little bit through fall camp, but he, I think his development has been really, really important to what we're doing. And then, I mean, obviously we started him last week and heavily figures in, but Ben Walos coming along the way he has been really important. And I think the biggest key is he's been able to stay healthy and he's been able to get consistent reps and he's learning and growing and getting better fast. And some of his talent, because he's a very talented kid, is like really starting to show up, which is pretty cool.
Has he shown you how to do that dance move yet?
He has actually, but he does it better than me.
All right, guys, we have time for one more from the group. We're going to hear from Ryan Dyer just because we haven't heard from him yet.
Hey, Coach, how you doing today?
Doing great, Ryan.
Excellent. I was curious if you could talk on maybe the challenges that arise with playing a Purdue team that has some familiarity. Obviously, Coach Odom coaching Jaden Mayava back at UNLV, he spoke earlier this week, just glowing reviews about Mayava, his family, his leadership, and all that. And obviously, Coach Henson being with you for 3 years. He was here last year when you installed the new defense with Coach Lynn. So just what kind of challenges arise with game planning for a team that does know quite a bit about you?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely happens some in this business. It's not the first time. In my experience, typically a lot gets made out of that, and it's still gonna these things still come down to the execution on field. I mean, you can drum up in your mind some advantages that Purdue would have of, Josh knowing some of our personnel or having been in this offensive scheme. You could also drum up some experiences, obviously, that we have as well, because we've got, a pretty solid knowledge of them offensively too. So I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, it's, as time passes, whether it's Josh leaving here or, Barry and those guys being with Jaden, I mean, those things evolve and things change. And I think a game like this still at the end of the day is going to come down to how well the players on the field play and execute those schemes and their jobs in that moment. Might it show up on a call here or there where there's an increased familiarity for us or for them, either way? Maybe here and there, but I think that stuff honestly tends to be a wash at the end of the day. It's still a player's game, an execution game, and I believe this one will very much be that.
Thanks, Coach.
Mhm.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, guys. Before we close, it's time for a Conquest Command, a question from the front lines of the Trojan Army. Our question this week is from content creator Fight on Preston. You can follow him on X at Fight on Preston and on YouTube at Preston's Paradise. Coach Riley, how satisfying is it to see the development and progress of so many players this season that were a part of your first recruiting class at USC? Do you think the success of these players can show athletes in this NIL era that if you stay put and put in the work with the right development, you will find success?
Yeah, great question again. I do. It's cool to see. I mean, a couple of years in here now, some of these guys really stepping up and becoming not only great players, but just really good leaders in this program. So I think it's fantastic. I think there's going to be guys in terms of transfers or potential transfers around the country. There's going to be some that making a move at times makes sense for them and is the right thing, and we all understand that. But I would hope that maybe there's those people that are on the fence, that maybe what here or anywhere else, or maybe it hasn't worked out perfect for them, but they can see a path going forward, and that they just wouldn't bail out, too quickly, because you can't beat the consistency. You can't beat knowing a system, knowing coaches, knowing your teammates, knowing the school, knowing the surrounding area. When you transfer, all that changes, and so I think it's a great example for people to, especially those that may be on the fence, to hang in there and persevere. And it's cool to see so many of those guys in that initial class doing well for us right now.